Well, here I am building up the diode and meter board for the SB-220. I'll take my old board and repair it, put new diodes in it. It's got a mix of different diodes and one burned resistor and one unknown thing here. So I'll rebuild that one, but I had the Harbach kit here and I decided I would do it. And this does not take much intelligence to do. You're just stuffing parts in a board. But the good thing to do is test each diode before you solder it in and make sure there's nothing wrong with it, because it's a pain in the ass to get them out. And the other is when you...
Okay, Larry, I'm back. How's your day going?
So anyway, I suggest that you check the forward and reverse resist on each diode before you put it in the board. And then be sure not to put the diode in backwards. I guess I got involved in bending the leads just right and put one in backwards, and it was a bit of a bear to take out. And so just get the band lined up with the mark on the board. Don't forget that in the process of bending the lead so it fits just right, you might stick it in backwards. So take care of that and you'll be all right. Okay, so since this video is aimed mostly at people doing the first project of this scope or working on an amplifier for the first time, I'm just going to show you the right way to do the lead dress and install these parts. If you take a look at these, you'll see that on all of these you can read what type of diode it is. These are 1N5408s, and on every one of them you can read that diode designation. And the reason for that is that often when you find these amplifiers later, people have gotten in and replaced an individual diode, and you can't tell if they've done that if you can't read what kind of diode it is. So I'm installing all of these with that number up, so you can just go along and read the part number, the diode type on each of these, so you know that either it hasn't been changed, or if it was changed, it was changed with the right one. Now the other thing that's important is getting this lead dress right. If you look at these diodes, you'll see that they're not all kind of half-assed. Each one of them is right inside its little silk screen box. You can see the little silk screen designation that tells you where the band goes. Most of them are pretty well in the ballpark the way they should be, and that's something you want to aim for. They're not all going to be perfect. Here's one that's sticking outside the box a little bit. There's another one that's sticking outside the box a little bit. But do the best you can. Get the thing oriented with, let me make sure that you're still in the viewfinder here. Yeah, pretty much. Okay. And I've worked from the inside out. I did this one and worked this way. I did this one and worked this way. This one and this way. Same with the resistors. It just seems to be easier for that way. But I'm cutting off the leads on each one right after I solder it, so it might not make that much difference. So anyway, get this oriented with the 1N5408 up so that you can read it. After you've done a few of these, you can almost do it by eye. The end of my needle nose gives just about the right length of the lead, but when you've bent it, set it down on the board, on the template, and make sure that it's going to be right. This one's just a little long, so I'm going to do it again. Like I said, you know, if you've got a good eye, and if you get just lucky and have a right size needle nose, you'll be able to grab it in the right place every time. Bend it. Get this thing square, so that when you bend the next one, it's bending down in the same plane. And now here you see, in the process of doing this, of bending these leads, I've got the diode turned around. So double check it. I've checked all these with the ohm meter to make sure they're good. Double check it, stick it in there, and see how goofy it is. If it's going to be too goofy, rebend it. Take it out, do it again. This one's not quite right. And when you get done, you end up with a nice, neat looking board. And I think that's worth something. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner, if this is the first time you've done it. It doesn't have to look that way. Until you soldered it in there, you're not committed. So get it in there. You can always, sometimes with the diodes, they've got very tough leads. Pretty hard to fudge it any. This one's not going to be just perfect, but it's going to be close enough. I'm going to make sure I'm in the viewfinder again, because I'm going to show you how to solder one of these. So I should make a mark on the bench or something. Okay, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see what the heck I'm doing. This isn't brain surgery. It's really not critical, but if you do it nicely, you get a nice result. And if you have to redo it, the result's never quite as nice. So you want a temperature-controlled soldering iron like this. You don't want a gun. You don't want one of those Chinese deals with a fishing reel on there that feeds the solder. You just want a nice temperature-controlled soldering iron, 25 watts, 40 watts, not any bigger than that. When you do this, put a little bit of solder on the end of the thing, because it helps conduct heat, and touch the lead, touch the wire. You got to make sure you get that hot, and get the solder to melt against the lead. And when you do, it will creep down the lead and fill a little pad. As soon as that pad is full, you're done. Take the heat off it. Now I happen to have a magnifying glass here, so I can inspect this, but you can stick your nose in it and see it pretty good. Usually I don't look at them until I've done both of them and clipped it off again. But anyway, that's the deal. The lead is much heavier than the little trace in the tab, so you're going to heat the lead, touch a little solder on there, it'll migrate down and fill the tab. As soon as this tab is full, you've got enough solder and you've got enough heat. Quit. Then take a pair of dikes of cutters, whatever one you got, big ones or small ones, and trim that thing right down at the top of the pad. I find these big ones work a little easier, and trim it right down to the top of the pad so you don't have a lot of wire sticking out, and it should look like that when you're done. And go back here, and now you can see I've made a big mistake. This thing is up off of the board. I've got to redo this and push that diode back down on the board. I don't know what I did. I got busy talking to you and screwed it up. You can use pressure against the workbench, heat it up, push down on the board, and that thing should pop through there. Oh, that's nasty. That's ugly. I don't know how I did that. Okay. Okay, the moral of that story is, if you want to do a nice job, don't sit here talking on the camera at the same time, because that's the ugliest one in the whole bunch. You really want to get these components positioned where you want them before you solder them, because afterwards you really just can't adjust them at all. The leads are too stiff, they're too short, they're soldered in, they're hard to unsolder and get off the board. So whatever adjustments you want to make, if you have to take the thing out 2 or 3 times and rebend the leads until it's really right, then that's what you got to do, because once it's in there, you might just as well leave it, even if it looks a little funny, because you're going to do more damage and waste more time than if you just left it. It's quick and easy to take them out, rebend the leads, get them so they're positioned the way you want it, and get one that comes out right. This one's right. It's inside the box. The band is lined up. Lead length is even. It's not crooked. This one's not right. It's not inside the box. It's out of the box. It's leaning over a little bit one way. You just can't do anything about it now. It's there. It's done, and you just got to live with it. You do want these things down right on top of the board. They'll conduct away the heat that way. You know, I don't know. I've built them with the things elevated off the board 1/4 of an inch for airflow, and that way might be okay too. But it's hard to get them even. So I'm getting tired. You can see if you look across the top here, you could pretty much lay a flat edge across the straight edge across the top of those diodes, and it's all pretty even. These are not so wonderful. I just get tired, that's all. But, you know, there you go. It ain't rocket science, and if it ain't beautiful, it's going to work the same. So when you get done, you end up with a board like this. This is the meter and the diode board, the Harbach meter and diode board for the SB-220. So you want to get all your leads trimmed. I tried to clean off all the flux off of here and really made it uglier, but get all your leads trimmed so you don't have a bunch of long leads sticking out, and Bob's your uncle.